Last time we covered the golems. Today we cover the other half of the summon tree, specifically the extremely misunderstood skeletons and revives, and these misunderstandings are a big reason why people will often pick the wrong support skills to go with them. So today we're going to dive into each of these more numerous summons and go over how they work on a slightly deeper mechanical level. Starting with Skeleton Mastery, it serves as a sort of cornerstone of all of the above skills, providing bonus life and damage across the board, and is actually more efficient at improving the damage of individual skeletons and revives, though if you're going to go after raw DPS of your entire swarm, then investing in the summons themselves is usually better due to just getting more bodies. So one of the first tricks to learn is how to balance these values based on your needs and resources, though thankfully this is helped a bit thanks to Masteries contributing even soft skill points to their bonuses. Similar to the golems, Summon Resist is a pretty powerful tool for improving the survivability of these summons as well, though unfortunately it does not work on the revive, since that would just be broken considering how they work. Though for the normal skeletons and skeleton magi, it is still a super powerful tool for keeping them alive, especially considering area of effect skills can be exceptionally dangerous to your minions without these resists. Now, onto the proper summons, we have three types: Skeleton Warrior, Skeleton Mage, and Revives, each with their own quirks to how they function. Starting with the Skeleton Warriors, we have a fairly popular minion with some odd quirks. Some of the simpler aspects are the standard AI delay, keeping their attacks relatively slow individually, also how their stats are based on their skill levels whenever you cast them, and that if you spawn them without a shield, they get a 0% chance to block, but with a shield, they have a 3% chance to block. So you kind of do want to watch for, well, shields. There's also how to know the number you'll have at any given level, with the first 3 levels granting you an additional skeleton each, then only getting more skeletons every 3rd level after that. So at level 3 you do get 3 skeletons, at level 6 it's 4, level 9 is 5, etc. The way these get weird though is how their damage is calculated, not in the summoning. Simply put, their base damage is actually determined by both Raised Skeleton and Skeleton Mastery, while the +% on Skeleton Mastery itself is applied like an aura. So basically at level 37, for example, skeletons will be at 75 to 76 damage with their skill alone, and you have level 37 Mastery like we do here, it adds 74 damage. So they'll have a base damage of 149 to 150 and then +% from this, and things like Might will be applied to it all at once. So while the current level, our skeletons do 507 damage. If we added a 200% might to that, it would only go up to 807 damage because it's additive to the skill's percent damage rather than applying to the displayed damage. Thankfully, the magi are not nearly as convoluted, with the exact same scaling for the quantity you can summon as their melee counterparts, and heck, they even benefit from fanaticism because their spells use ranged attack animations rather than casting. The weirdness from them is that they sadly have a completely unlisted damage amount for better or worse. This is because they will summon one of 4 random flavors on casting, specifically fire, cold, poison, and lightning, and while some of them got buffs, they're still fairly weak since there's no reliable way to consistently boost their damage output outside of resistance manipulation on the enemies. That said, there is a hidden function that does influence these damages called missile level, which you can basically think of as the spell level they use to cast their attack. And like the Skeleton Warriors, the majority of their base damage comes from Skeleton Mastery, not the skill itself, with every point in the Mastery providing 1 missile level, while Summon skill itself only gets its first missile level at level 4 and then goes up every 2 levels after that. So on a per mage basis, Skeleton Mastery will have a bit more mileage. Now, due to the limited potency of the Skeleton Magi, they generally end up being better to use for the side effects of their damage type rather than their actual raw damage. So no matter how many you have, getting a few poison to prevent the monster healing, or if you don't mind a bit of a chill, getting a few cold can actually be semi-useful. Though generally you only want to use those after you have the rest of your army up, as there will still be usually enough corpses for exploding even whenever you get them, but you don't want to slow it down any. The third remaining summon is the Revive, which really varies based on what you decide to revive, which generally just has some things to keep in mind whenever you decide to use them. First off is that they have a hard cap on duration. It's 3 minutes to get what you need to get done. And as far as the life and damage, they are based on player's 1 stats for the creature, though your boost will at least compensate for that a bit in larger games. Now, as far as the more detailed stuff on those stats go, it's important to remember that revives follow the same character level rules as conversion skills, where it will take the lower of the levels between your character level and the monster level, so their base stats may be a bit lower if you're reviving things stronger than you. It's also important to remember the damage boost only applies to the actual physical attack, so no, it's not going to make any caster type enemies that terrifying. Now, Casters are also further nerfed as far as revives go, since skills like spawning, resurrection, and buff skills are deactivated when revived, so things like shamans become significantly less appealing. Generally speaking, all three types of the Necromancer mass summons have their uses, with skeletons being the core for game completion, magi being the tools for impairing enemies, and revives being the specialists, able to bring in stronger effects like crushing blow or very specific elemental punches, or inferno in some cases. We know who you are. And they're especially useful against Ubers. So do you have a favorite, or do you just like mixing and matching all of the above? Mention it down below, and as always, a special thanks to all of you that view and like these videos, as well as the direct supporters over on Patreon, Twitch, as well as the channel members here on YouTube for helping fund the time it takes to create these videos.